Assalamu alaikum. Today we start our first lecture, data abstraction object-oriented programming. In the past week, we had some examples. We were not just having fun. كان في شوية fun برضه بس we're having examples to motivate you warm up before the class. As I said, the first 4 or 5 lectures, I will review the parts of CS101 that I think are the mostly needed for CS112. And last week during the review, I found that many students had a problem with local and global variables. So I'd like to go into some more details talking about local and global variables. As for when we talked about functions, arguments, call by value and call by reference, I think most of the students already know those things, so I'll go more quickly. Let's start. Functions. First of all, we have been using functions even before we knew that we can program functions, we can write functions. Because we have some functions called external functions and some internal functions. Internal functions, you define them by yourself as a user, you program them. But there are many functions, especially the mathematical functions, square root, absolute, exponential, and power. Those functions, we call them external functions because they are not contained in the same program. They are contained in outside your program file, or something we call the libraries that you include. So I have, for example, to include the math library to use the exponent or power function. You have to include the standard library to use the printf and so on and so forth. Okay. And why do we need functions? Again, a quick introduction. Instead of having a very long and complex program, and if you have an error in this line, then you have to search for the error in the entire program. No, we make it easier by dividing your program, your code, into small parts, which we call the functions. And this approach in programming is called the modular programming, as opposed to this one, we call it the spaghetti programming. Because all the lines are confused together. But when we split into groups, then this is called the modular programming. And after the week after next, we're going to learn even better way to write code, better than modular programming, which is called the object-oriented programming, which is the topic of this course. So when you split your code into functions, if you have, for example, a problem with this statement only, then you only look inside the function. Because this statement, if you write good modular programming, the statements in this function should have no effect on the statements on the other function. Each function is separate. Okay? Let's quickly remember how do we define a function. Function definition contains, of course, the name of the function. Why do you have to give the function a name? So that you are able to call it. Like each of us has a name, so we can call each other. Function have parameters. The parameters take the values from outside the function as input. And then functions also have return values, which is the output of the function returned outside the function. The function has a body. The body of the function does perform some operations, but most importantly, if it is a non-void function, then a non-void function should contain a return statement to return the result outside the function. Otherwise, we are doing computation inside the function, and those computations are lost. This is called a function definition. This is called a function definition. What is a function definition? We are telling the compiler that we have a function that does this operation. Well, what is this operation? Compute the area of the circle, any operation. خلاص? It takes a value r, multiplies r by r, which is r squared, and multiplies also by pi. And we know that this is area of circle. Type. But those 3 lines of code, do they do anything? ولا حاجة خالص. Those lines of code do not perform anything until and unless they are called. استدعاء الfunction must be called to execute. So those lines don't do anything until we call them. When you call the function, then the compiler is going to look, is there a function definition with this same name, circle area? Yes, there is a function definition with the same name, circle area. Does this function take only one parameter? Yes, this function takes only one parameter. Then this function call is correct, okay? We can call this function. What is this assignment used for? بس استخدام ما ضرورة هذا الأسايمنت. أيوة. To use the value returned by the return statement. We have a return statement, it returns the value, and to be able to take this value, to receive this value, تلقي هذا الvalue, then we must have an assignment, and the return value is stored on the left-hand side of the assignment. So this is how we define a function, this is how we call a function. And if you are here, then it means you already passed CS101, and you know already those things. So let's look at a full program that uses this function, again, very quickly. Very long program. What is the first line that is executed? I always start at the main, because we said the operating system has the entry point, نقطة دخول أي برنامج, the entry point of any code is at the main. So any C++ program must have at least one function. The name of this function is main, so that it knows where to start. Cout enter radius. Okay, it gives me a prompt message, ينبهني that the program is waiting for me to enter something. Then I declare radius variable inside the main. What is the value of radius? It is read from the input. We read it from the input. So here, for example, I type 10 and then enter. So it is stored inside my radius. Then we call the function. This is the function definition. Where do I look for the definition of the function? We can see as a human that the definition is below the main. But is this how the program works? We always look at the definition. مش فاكر هي مكتوبة somewhere. I wrote it in a previous slide maybe. The function definition can be placed anywhere in the program after the function definition is placed in front of main, before the main. But here, the definition of the function is not before main. We have a prototype before main. So usually, not usually, always, we go and look for a definition before main. We didn't find the full definition, but we just found the prototype. Prototype is just the header of the function. It tells me that there is a function with a name, circle area, that takes a float and returns a float. خلاص? Is this compatible, متوافقة, with the function call? Yes, because it has the same name and it has one float, my radius, and it returns a float. They are both compatible. Where is the function definition? Then the prototype tells me to go there. Why do we write it like this? Because usually خليها في مجموعة فوق دلوقتي. Why do I write like this? Because sometimes we like that the main is at the beginning of your file. So if you put the main at the beginning of the file, you put all the definitions below, and you put all the prototypes before main, just the prototypes. If we put all the definitions, then the main is at the end of the file. You have to look, where is the main? I cannot find it. So one of the styles of modular programming is to put the main at the beginning as much as you can, with only the prototypes before the main, and the definitions at the end, because the definitions talk about some details. واضح؟ عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. And in that case, the value of my radius, which is 10, is passed into R, so the value of R becomes 10. 10 times 10 is 100, times pi is 314.15. خلاص? And this is the output there. No, it is not the output. Here, there is no output inside the function. The function does not contain a cout. So how is the result printed? Because we return. ممتاز. Because some students say there is no cout in the function, so there is no output. مش مظبوط الكلام ده. We go back to the function. Where do you store the result? In the variable area. Now that it's stored here, we print it with the cout. So inside the function, the purpose of the function is only to compute the result, and the result is stored in the area, and then it is printed. واضح؟ يعني quick refresh, استذكار بسيط. What if we have more than one parameter? What if we have more than one parameter? If you have more than one parameter, then you should call the function call should be done with exactly the same number of arguments, such that the first argument is copied into the first parameter, the second into the second, and so on. We can have any number of parameters as long as the function call has exactly the same number of arguments.
The same time also.
The same. ممتاز. أشكرك. مين معايا؟ أهلا وسهلا. فواز is telling us the same number and the same type. يعني we're going to talk about this further in detail when we talk about classes and overloading. But for now, sometimes some compilers are able to manage it. ممكن تتصرف. For example, if I have an int here and a double here, ممكن يتصرف. It converts the int into a double. But as a general practice, and to avoid errors, because sometimes if you do the conversion, you can have an error, especially if a conversion from double to int. ممكن يعني the number is lost. To avoid errors and to be a good programmer, then we should use the same number of arguments and the same type of arguments. So in that case, we have an int argument 1 and a double argument 2. Same thing, int and double in the same order. واضح في أي حاجة تانية هنا؟ No more comment about this simple slide. Void functions. What are void functions? We know that each function, as we said 3 slides ago, each function should have a parameter and should have return type. What if you don't want to return anything? Then we define what we call the void function. The void function is simply a function that does not have a return statement. So if you put a return statement, what happens? Error. You are not allowed to have a return statement in a void function. واضح? Again, this is where we start. We see out hello from the main function. It is printed here. And then we have a for loop. من فضلكم try to remember what is a for loop. For loop is a repetition structure. It repeats what is inside the body of the for. Where is the body of the for? This line only. How do I know that this is the body of the for loop? A for loop, a for loop takes only the first line after the first loop, after the for statement inside the body of the loop. خلاص? If we have a for loop, then the first statement after the for is the body of the loop. What if you would like to put more statement inside the for loop? Then you use the curly braces. Open brace, close brace. Then all of this is the body of the for loop. If we don't have braces, if you forget the braces, what happens? The for loop takes only the first statement after the for statement as the body. And what happens to those statements outside the for loop? So here this for loop does not have braces, which means only this line is part of the for loop, is the body of the for loop. How about this C out? This C out is outside the for loop. خلاص? No braces. This return is outside the for loop. طيب. So it calls the function display message 5 times. How do I know? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and stop before 5. Before 5. How do I know I should increment every time by 1? 0, 1, 2. Why not 0, 10, 20, 30?
Plus 1.
Because I have plus, plus. Plus, plus means increment by 1. Each time increment by 1. خلاص? We are reviewing those things very quickly. What does the function display message do? Function display message just see out one message from inside the function. It is repeated 5 times. Repeated 5 times the same message. And then after the 5th call, the function returns, the for loop ends, and we go to the next statement, which is the cout after the for loop, which prints back in function main. So we print this, return 0, and the program finishes. واضح? Simple program, easy to understand. Any questions? نستمر. طيب. And next thing, we talk about function parameters. We already talked about function parameters. If you have one parameter, then call the function using one argument. If you have two parameters, two arguments, same number, same type. Last time on Thursday, I talked about reference and value parameters, just using an example. Today, let me give more detailed insight. This is code, starts at main. You should be able to trace quickly and correctly short programs like this one. We have a program like this one. Okay, I'll start at main. What do I have? I have 4 variables. 4 of them are int. I'm going to separate the memory into 3 blocks. One block of memory inside the function, sumdif. Another block of memory inside the main function. What does this block of memory have? 4 ints. مش كده ولا ايه؟ X, Y, sum, and diff. What are the values of those variables? ممتاز. أشكرك. 7300. And then inside the function, do I have variables also? Are there declarations inside the function? هل هناك تعريف variables جديدة داخل الفانكشن؟ أيوه. اللي هم؟ لا الفانكشن في الفانكشن A, B, S, and D. So the parameters are not just parameters, they are declarations of variables. So inside inside the function, I have also another 4 declarations. Local declarations inside the function. Nobody outside the function can see the variables a, b, s, and d. We can use the variables a, b, s, and d only inside the functions because they are local to the function. Similarly, x, y, sum, and diff are local inside the main. Inside some diff function, you cannot use x. Some diff function cannot see the value of x, cannot see the variable x, y, sum, or diff. Function main cannot see the variables a, b, s, and d. Those are variables in one location, those are variables in another location. But what is the relationship between ايوه انا حاضر بخصوص ايه؟ طيب يعني معلش طبعا هشوف انا الظروف والكلام ده انا خلاص اتوزعت حتى ما الاسبوع اللي فات الكلام انا قلت بعدين بس يعني انا لا اكتب الكلام ده ولا شيء انا لا لازم اكون مشرف عليه في المجموعات بس عايز وبعدين عمل ما عادش اهلا وسهلا وصلنا لفين؟ So we have 4 variables, local variables. طب what is the relationship between those variables? ماشي. Those are variables inside the main. خلاص. Inside the other function we cannot see x, y, sum and diff. And those are other variables a, b, s, and d. Inside the main you cannot see a, b, s, and d. But there is some relationship. ايه هي؟ address. لا مش address. We call this the calling by value. Calling by a by value, which means the value of x is copied inside a, the value of y is copied inside b, the value of sum is copied inside s, and the value of diff is copied inside d. واضح? So even though they are separate variables, but the value of a is 7, the value of b is a 3 0 0. واضح؟ بس الدنيا انتهت؟ ايوه. Then we execute the functions. The first statement in the function, s equals a plus b. What is the new value of s? What is s now? a plus b. على طول نبقى ماشيين كده، ما فيش وقت للتفكير، حاجات سهله دي. So s is 10. How about d? ايوه 7 minus 3 4. ممتاز. What happens after we compute the d? The function ends. Where is the next statement after the function ends? Cout. Cout. Sum equals sum. Inside the main function, I print the value of sum. What is the value of sum? Why not 10? مش احنا غيرنا? Didn't we compute the new 10? There is no return. ماشي. لا, we call the function. Oh, this is the function call. This is the function call. But the values are copied from the function call, from the arguments to the parameters one way only. واضح? The values are copied one way. جميل? Which means that the value that was changed inside the function of S and D are not copied back into sum and if. ماشي. There is no return. دي واحدة. But there is no reference. كنت بتكلمنا على الأدرس. خلاص, we are going to talk about the reference. طب, so now this program prints 0 and 0. Is this the purpose of this program? هل كان هذا هو الغرض من البروبلم؟ لا. أكيد we would like to have sum and difference with the values 10 and 4. والسؤال دلوقتي, how can we return S to sum and D into diff? Call by reference. طب return, is it possible to do it with a return statement? Why not? لا, I can change this and make an int and make a return. صح? How can you return some? أيوه. ممتاز. Return allows to return only one variable. You can return S, you can return D, but you cannot return both. خلاص? Here we have an example where the return statement is not enough. Yes, it is needed, أحتاج إليها, but it is not enough to return all the computed values inside the function. How can you return more than one value from the function? By using, اتفضلي, a reference. ممتاز. By using a reference. So by using a reference, what is the difference between using reference and without reference? A and B are not reference variables, which means X value is copied inside A, Y value is copied inside B. But S and D are references, which means the sum is copied inside S, and any change inside S is reflected back, ينعكس على the sum. How about the diff? Same thing. Copy into D, and both ways. خلاص? So it is working both ways. طبعا, of course. Since this is an argument list, this is a parameter list, then the orders should match. يعني يكون ايه في التزام بالorder. Also, this is exactly the same function except that we are using references. So because we are using references, what happens? The value of S that was changed inside the function became 10. The value of D that can 0 and now 10. The value of D that was 0 and now became 4. Those values are copied back, مش copy back, but S changes the value of sum and D changes the value of diff because it contains the address. It's a reference variable. Diff contains the address of D, which means when the value of D is changed, then diff can see what happened inside the D. خلاص? It is not the opposite way, that D contains only the value of diff, address of diff. So this is why this program works as expected, كما هو متوقع, by returning the two values. In addition, we must use reference if you'd like to return more than one value from the function. واضح؟ هنشوف إذا كان واضح ولا مش واضح. Next thing is the global and local variables. Global and local variables. On Thursday, when I started doing this example, were many people confused. So let's talk about it in more details. Let's look at those two examples, two different examples. They look very similar, but there is a very small difference. Can you see the difference between those two pieces of code? Where is the difference? First line inside the main. ممتاز. The first line inside the main has just this added word, int. How is this different from the one on the left? Why adding int? And usually you will see this many times in quizzes and exams. For example, I can give you a problem like this in the tutorial. And in the quiz or the exam, I just add int. But I ask you to understand, not just memorize. So the students look that maybe this problem is the same that we got there. They know the problem, they memorize the answer, and they write the answers, which are completely false. When they exit the exam, they are very happy. The exam was very easy, and I solved everything correctly. But then they find that they made lots of mistakes. What does this int mean? بنسميها ايه؟ locals. ده كده دخلت في الصميم. It is a declaration. خلاص؟ انت برضو انا عايزين declaration of a new variable. Declaration of a new variable. طيب in C++ we already know this, but let's review it. We cannot use a variable if it was not declared. بدون تعريف الفاريبل لا يمكن استخدامه. صح ولا لا الكلام ده؟ So here in this line, do I declare a new variable g? لا, I use the variable g. طيب how can we use variable g without declaration? فين الديكلاريشن؟ No declaration inside the main. أيوة. Because it is declared in the global space. In the global space. It is declared in the global space, so we can use it inside the main. طيب, if the variable g was declared only inside the function, can you use it inside main? لا. If it is declared inside the function, you cannot use it in another function. If it is declared inside main, you cannot use it inside function. If it is declared inside function, you cannot use it inside main. When can you use it in both? If it is global, or if it is defined inside function, defined inside main, or else it is defined everywhere. طيب. So this is the first piece of information. How about this declaration? This declaration makes a variable g inside the function that is used only inside the function, and a different variable also with the same name but in a separate space, in a different space, in the global space. خلاص واضح؟ Now that we know the difference, let's trace the program on the left and then trace the program on the right, and even though they look very similar, but the output is different, completely different. طيب, as we said, we always start with the main function, the first statement, g equals 13. But before tracing this code, I must separate the memory into three spaces. The global space is seen inside all the functions. The local space of each function. The local space of function 1 is seen only inside function 1. The local space of main is seen only inside the main. واضح؟ Inside the main, do I have any variables? No, I don't have declaration, no declaration, no declaration, no declaration. Then, نمسح. No variables inside the main. Inside the function, do I have any declaration inside function 1? No declaration inside function 1. No parameter, no declaration. How do you know declaration? We know a declaration because it starts with int, float, double. It starts with a type. No type, no type, no variables, no variables. What is the only variable in this program? it is the global G. What is the value of G? 10. Now we can start. We start the program. It uses the variable G. Which G variable? Global one. Why? Because I don't have a local one. But if I don't have a local one and I don't have a global one, it is an error because we cannot use a variable that is not defined anywhere. الحقيقة يعني it is going to look further, it is going to look also in the include file. If it does not find G in the include file, ولا global, ولا local, خلاص, then it is an error أكيد. But in this course we are going to study programs that are contained only inside one file. يعني مش هنقول على code that is split on different files. So here, G not local, then look at the global one. What is the value? The value is 10. What happens to that value? G equals 30. What does this statement do?
Change the value.
Change the value, overwrite. تمحو الفاليو السابقة وتكتب عليه 30. انتوا مش عارفين ولا مكسوفين ولا زهقانين متابعين؟ خلاص G equals 30 وبعدين function call. Function call. Are there parameters? No parameters. No argument. مفيش مشكلة. G star equals 2. بتعمل ايه G star equals 2؟ 30 ضرب. طيب أول حاجة it is going to look for the variable G. Is there a variable G in the local space of the function? In the local space لا. مفيش go inside the function. There is a variable G. يبقى هندور في الجلوبال سبيس. هل موجود في الجلوبال سبيس؟ Yes. What is the value of G in the global space? 10؟ لا مش 10. Not 10. It has been changed by the main to become 30. This is why we need to trace line by line. خلاص واضح؟ خلاص. So it is going to use the plus. Some students just G star equals 2 يعني 10 becomes 20. طب with this 30 مش غيرت في 10؟ طيب. G star equals 2 يعني 30 becomes a 60. Why? Because this statement means G equals G star 2, which means read the old value of G, like 30. Multiply this value by 2, becomes 60. Store the 60 back in G. هو ده معنى star equal. واضح. عارفينه. هتعرفوه. And then see out G. See out G is going to look for a G inside the function. No G inside the function. Then it is going to look in the global space. It finds the G. What is the last value of G? 60. Then it prints this 60. This G is this 60. Then this function ends. We go back after the function call. G++. G++ searches for it searches for a variable G inside the local space of main. Do we have G inside main? No G inside main. So we go and look at the global space. Do we have a G in the global space? Yes. What is the latest value آخر قيمة للG? 60. يبقى G++ هتعمل ايه في 60؟ 60 becomes 61 and then see out G prints the 61. واضح؟ In the right hand side code, we also start at the same line, first line after main. We have a declaration. The declaration of G equals 30 declares a new variable G. What is the scope of this variable? Scope اللي هو السكوب. What is the scope? The scope المجال, the location, the place where we can see this variable. We can see this variable. خلاص. Inside the main only. G equals 30. طيب Do I have another G in this program? Yes, it is in the global space. What is the value of the G in the global space? The value of G in the global space is 10. But now I have G equals 30. In the left-hand side program, G equals 30 overwrites the 10 and becomes 30. What happens here? We declare a new G and we store the value in the local G, but the global G remains 10. ايه السبب؟ ايه الاختلاف؟ ايوه then بمعنى when I see G equals 30, first thing I look inside the main. Do I have a variable called G? Yes, we have one. Where is it? This one. What is the value? 30. انتهى الكلام. Here, do I have a local variable G? No local variable. Do I have a global one? Yes. Then change the global one to 30. خلاص واضح؟ The local one covers the global one. تعرف تعمل الكلام ده؟ تأكيد. طيب. And then we call the function. When we call the function, it multiplies the value of G by 2. Where is the G? Same thing. Look locally. Do you have a local variable G? Local inside function. Inside function? No. Yes, we have inside main. طيب سؤال. Can function 1 see the G inside main? لا. The G inside main is declared in another function. Inside the function, we can only see the local variables inside the function or the global variables, but not the variables defined in another function, حتى لو كانت main. So here, number one, look inside the function. Do you have G? No G. نروح فين? Globally. Do I have G? Yes. What is the value? 10. Multiply by 2 becomes 20. See out G. See out G. نروح فين? Print the 20. خلاص؟ هل ال 30 تغيرت؟ The 30 is not changed because the function cannot even see that we have a variable called G. Then we return from the function. We return from the function and we do G++. G++, first thing, look inside the main function. Do you have G? Yes. What is the value? 30. Becomes 31. See out G, print 31. So even though both programs look exactly the same, but they produce different output. واضح؟ جميل؟ أظن دي تقدروا تعملوها. Can we do this? Main. We have global space. Global space. Function space. And main space. Inside the main, do I have, what are the declarations? Only one declaration, A. What is the value of A? In the global space, how many declarations? الأسماء والقيم. A1, B2, C3. Inside the function, how many declarations? One declaration, two declarations. Type one, which one? B. What is the value of B? Uninitialized. Listen, hey, 200. 200. طيب واللي قال 2 فين الفاريبل الثاني؟ ما ننساش السي. Don't forget that parameters are also local declarations. هتنسوا الكلام ده؟ C. What is the value of C? We are going to know when the function is called. خلاص؟ هنعرفها when we call the function. Let's trace the program. Int A equals 10 موجودة. B equals 20. Look inside the main. Do I have B? No. Is it an error? No, because I have a global B. يبقى 2 تصبح كام؟ 20 بقى صح؟ جميل. C equals 30. Is it an error? it is not local, then we search for the global one. We have a global one. هتبقى كام؟ ممتاز. 20 and 30. The global ones changed. And then we call the function خلاص by passing the argument A. What is the value of A? The value of A is do I have a local A? Yes. Then I use this A, 10, not 1. Because I have a local one, so no need to go and look in the global space. The value of 10 is passed. خلاص لأن كل هتغلط في الكلام ده. لا أتحدث بالغيب بس يعني ده طبيعة خلق الإنسان. It is going to look only for the local one. Because I have a local one, the value is passed فين? Into C. يبقى local C بقت كام? C10. Why? Because the argument is passed to the parameter. So I have B equals 200. C equals 10. Now inside the function, C out A, B, C. C out A. Do I have A inside the function? No, no declaration of A inside the function. Is it an error? Where do I look for the A? So in the global space, and this is why it prints it prints 1. Then C out B. Do I have a local B? Yes. What is the value? 200. It is initialized in this line. Next, do I have a local C? Yes. What is the value? 10. How do I get this 10? From the argument that is passed. عرفتوا؟ شكرا. تفضلوا.